Chapter 10 Troy. Kurukshetra. Ragnarök. The wars that ended an age. 1. The Trojan War, the funeral pyre of the heroic age. In the classical accounts curated by Bulfinch and immortalized by Homer, the Trojan War is the definitive apocalypse of the heroic age. It began not with a sword, but with an apple of discord, proving that the most devastating wars often spring from the smallest vanities of the gods. For 10 years, the plains of Troy became a bloody stage where the elite of the Greek and Trojan worlds collided in a cycle of vengeance. The air was thick with the dust of chariots and the bronze clangor of shields, while above the fray the Olympians themselves engaged in a partisan struggle, pulling the strings of fate like divine puppeteers. The conflict is defined by its tragic archetypes. The wrath of Achilles, whose invulnerability was matched only by his volatile pride, and the piety of Hector, who fought not for glory but for the doomed walls of his home. The climax, the Trojan horse, remains the ultimate symbol of human cunning overcoming divine-like strength. When Troy finally fell in a torrent of fire and blood, it signaled the end of an era where gods walked among men. For the Greeks, this war was the great sifter of souls. A reminder that even the most glorious civilizations are but a single betrayal away from becoming ash and legend. 2. The Battle of Kurukshetra, the cosmic cleansing. The Mahabharata describes the Battle of Kurukshetra as a dharma yuddha, a war of righteousness that necessitated the destruction of the world to save its soul. Fought between the 5 Pandava brothers and their 100 cousins, the Kauravas, it was a fratricidal nightmare that drew every king and kingdom of India into its vortex. The scale of the slaughter was celestial. The epic speaks of astras, divine weapons, that summoned pillars of fire, dried up the oceans and darkened the sun, hauntingly reminiscent of modern cataclysms. At the center of this carnage stands the dialogue of the Bhagavad Gita. As Arjuna falters at the sight of his kin, Krishna reveals the terrifying reality of the cosmos. That death is an illusion, and the warrior's duty is a sacred sacrifice to the divine. The 18-day war left millions dead, leaving the earth a wasteland of widows and silence. In the Hindu tradition, Kurukshetra is the hinge of history. The moment the world tipped into the Kali Yuga, the age of darkness. It teaches that when the world becomes heavy with the adharma of tyrants, the gods will demand a price in blood to reset the scales of time. 3. Ragnarök, the final twilight of the north. In the Prose Edda, the Great War is not a memory, but a prophecy. Ragnarök is the inevitable doom of the gods, a war where the divine and the monstrous meet for a final, mutual annihilation. The conflict is preceded by the Fimbulvetr, 3 consecutive winters with no summer between them, during which the bonds of kinship shatter and the world descends into a wolf age of betrayal. When the giants and the sons of Muspelheim storm the gates of Asgard, the gods do not hide. They ride out to meet their fate with a grim warrior joy. The battlefield of Vigrid becomes the grave of the pantheon. Odin is swallowed by the wolf Fenrir. Thor slays the world serpent only to succumb to its venom. Heimdall and Loki deal each other a mortal blow. The world is finally consumed by the fire giant Surtur, who flings flame across the 9 realms until the earth sinks into the boiling sea. For the Norse, this war is the ultimate expression of courage. To fight for the right, knowing that you will die and that your world will perish. It is the final victory of the spirit over the tragedy of existence. 4. The Wars of Oguz Han, the unification of the steppe. In the epic landscape Turkish mythology by Bahattin Ojal, war is the tool of the civilizer. The campaigns of Oguz Han were not mere raids for plunder, but a divine mission to bring the 4 corners of the world under the shadow of the Bozok and Yukok banners. Guided by the luminous grey wolf, whose eyes glowed with a celestial blue light, Oguz Han's armies moved like a force of nature across the Eurasian plains. His battles were often against monstrous entities, forest demons, tyrannical kings, chaos spirits that disrupted the order of the sky god. The great war of the Turkic tradition is the struggle to establish the Torah law. When Oguz Han's soldiers whistled their arrows into the wind, it was the sound of a new world being born. His wars represent the triumph of the organized tribe over the untamed wilderness. For the Turkic people, his conquests are the foundational myth of sovereignty, proving that the divine mandate, belongs to those who have the strength to unite the people and the wisdom to govern them under the eternal blue sky. 5. The contendings of Horus and Set, the War of Two Lands. According to the papyri explored by Wallace Budge, the war between Horus and Set was a 7-score-year struggle for the throne of Egypt. It was a war of transformations and magic, where the combatants became hippopotamuses, lions and storms to destroy one another. Set, the god of chaos and the Red Desert, represented the disruptive forces of the wild, while Horus represented the legitimate solar order of civilization. This war was not fought solely on the battlefield, but in the divine courts of the gods. It was a legal and physical struggle to prove who was true of voice. In one famous encounter, Horus lost his eye, which became the Wadjet, a symbol of healing and wholeness for all humanity. The eventual victory of Horus and the banishment, or subjugation, of Set ensured the stability of the Nilotic world. To the Egyptians, this mythic war was the guarantee that order would always triumph over chaos, and that the pharaoh, as the living Horus, would always have the power to protect the two lands from the encroaching sands of the void.